Okay, I'm Janie, lead code with Rambeau. Sounds like a long name, and it is. I was born in Doherty County, January 15th, 1940, and I'm always proud of the fact that the 15th is the same day, January 15th is the same day as Martin Luther King's birthday.
Now, what about your family? What were your parents as far as their occupations, and how many
Okay.
siblings did you have?
There were 9 of us. My parents, my dad formerly was a farmer, but then they moved to town, and there's a serious story behind that. They're moving to town from the farm. And my mom was more of a housewife. Back then, the wife stayed home to see about the children. My dad said it was more profitable to him for her to be home with the children, taking care of what he worked and brought in. Before they moved to town, we were living on Newton Road. My dad left the farm, they were sharecropping. And of course, with the sharecropping, with many stories of our people, they were never able to break even, or if they broke even, they didn't make much, and by then you've taken up stuff, that is, gotten credit from the plantation owner throughout the year, so you were still somewhat in debt. And my dad decided to move town. And one Saturday evening, may I tell this story?
Sure.
One Saturday evening, my dad was coming home from work. He was working at the A&P grocery store. And my dad rode a bicycle. We didn't have a car. And up on the corner of Corn Avenue and Newton Road, the plantation owner's son passed by and saw my dad riding home on the bicycle. And he stopped his car and got out of the car and was going to beat my daddy into going back to the plantation. Back then, they used to try to intimidate people or whatever because you were losing profit, okay? I think the bottom line was the almighty dollar. But Dad jumped off his bicycle when that man jumped on him, and he beat that man to the ground. Later that night, they had called the sheriff, and they came and they arrested my dad. He spent the night in jail. But nothing ever came of a trial or anything of the kind. As a matter of fact, one of the men who lived on another plantation not far from where my parents had been living had told one of the men who was my dad's friend to go and tell Ross, my dad's name was Ross Culbreth, to go tell Ross not to be home because the sheriff is going to come for him, and if he's not home, they can't arrest him. And the man did not tell my dad, and he was my dad's good friend. And so they came and they arrested my daddy, but nothing ever came of it. But I'll forever remember that story. I heard my mom and dad talk about it so many times because they would not go back to the plantation. But anyway, they never did go back to the farm. So we were brought up reared more or less in town, what we could call town at that time, because actually Albany then was not the city that it is now. But I remember one time as a little girl, and I'll forever remember this, a little girl, I must have been about 1st or 2nd grade, and they had the city bus, we would ride the bus to go downtown. And I was excited because I was going to get some new shoes. And we jumped on the bus, and I ran, and I sat down in the first seat I got to. And I remember my mom snatched me by the arm and told me I couldn't sit there, and she took me to the back of the bus. And I did not understand. I could not understand. I didn't know what was going on. And Mom did not explain it. She said, just do what I told you. It was much later in life when I realized that at that time, blacks could not ride on the front of the bus. Okay? But I didn't understand that at that age. Please see that I did not understand that then. Other things happened, like we'll go downtown, and there are these water fountains, one marked colored and one marked white. This is hard to get on to a little child. Why? Restrooms, white ladies, and colored women. because there was a distinct difference in a lady and a woman. Black people were women. There again, I couldn't get the real grasp of it. By the time I got to high school, we would go downtown and intentionally drink from the white fountain. Rebellion was sitting in, okay? Because after years of not understanding something, and you're seeing this happen all the time, you start to wonder, somebody's going to answer some questions for me, or I'm going to fight the system. And there were some friends and I who would go downtown on Saturdays. That's when we went downtown to buy your school supplies for the next week, a thing of notebook paper, pencil or two, or whatever. And we would intentionally drink from the white fountain.
And how old were you when you did that?
This was high school.
Wow.
Must have been about 10th or 11th grade. And somebody would always say, you can't drink from that fountain. And we always would come back with something like, I don't like colored water. I like my water clear. Don't get drink from the white fountain. Oh boy. That was downtown, a store, Silver's 10-cent store. I don't know if you remember, you probably don't remember anything about a 10-cent store. 5 and 10. But there were many all over the South. And we had one in Albany. There was Cress's 10-cent store, Silver's 10-cent store, whatever. And I would go down. I loved going into Silver's because there was a lady in there who was very mean and nasty to black people. She would wait on all the white customers. And when it came to us, she finally said, can I help you, please? And whatever you bought, she'd throw you your change and she'd throw the pressures at you. And I told my girlfriend Lucinda one Saturday, I said, I'm going to break this woman up once and for all. And we went in the store. My mom used to chew apple sun cured tobacco. And we went in the store and got the supply that she always got, And I waited until the lady put it in the bag. I had carried with me a can of pennies and had counted out the exact amount of the purchase. And so she put it in the bag, and when she threw the bag at me, I took that can of pennies and threw them across that counter. And they scattered everywhere. I threw the can so the pennies would come out. They scattered everywhere. My friend Cindy got so scared I thought she was going to have a heart attack. And when I threw those pennies at that woman and snatched my bag with the tobacco in it, I took off running out of the back door. I knew to run because she could be arrested. Right? We went out of the back door, out through the back of Silver's 5 and 10, and out to Broad Avenue, and I ran all the way home. And I never told my mom what happened. Okay. But that particular morning when there were 700 people arrested, my daddy instructed me seriously, go to school and take your test. Final exams were coming up. It was the end of the fall quarter. And I think I had 3 tests that day. But we met up on the corner, my friend Annette, the one you just talked about, Annette Jones and I, and we decided, because we used to walk to school. Please understand, students were walking back then. And as we walked down, went down Jackson, she said, let's cut through Harlem to see what's going on. And when we turned to go through Harlem, her daddy had told her the same thing. Be sure to go take your test. And we got down there and we saw these brothers and sisters. It was raining cats and dogs. It was bad weather. My little umbrella had folded double.
Oh, man.
Yeah, how umbrellas break down. The rain was so hard. And they were singing, We Shall Overcome. And then they said, Janie, what you want to do? I said, and then I can't handle it. Let's go. Let's go. And we went and got in the line. After we got in the line and we ran back singing, We Shall Overcome, We Shall Overcome, Chief Pritchard came in on the bullhorn.
Oh, boy.
You're all under arrest.
Oh,
And I looked at that and that looked at me. Lord, we are in trouble.
Oh, boy.
We knew we were in trouble, but it was okay. We weren't going to get out of that line. Some people did escape because there were so many people there, you couldn't keep up with all of them.
Yeah.
And I guess if we had really wanted to escape, we could have.
Yeah.
But we wanted to go on through to see what was going on.
Uh-huh.
And they herded us like animals from Jackson Street all the way downtown. A lot of folk don't understand this too. The jail that they now have was nothing compared to the jail that we went in.
Uh-huh.
As a matter of fact, the jail was on the other side of the street on Pine Avenue.
Uh-huh.
And there was a graveled walkway, what they call it, breezeway, that led up to the jail.
Uh-huh.
They got us all herded in, all this bad weather, it's raining cats and dogs.
Uh-huh.
We are soaking wet, and they lead us across it after we get to Pine Avenue. They herd us into the jail.
Uh-huh.
There was one young lady who was there with us, and I'll never forget it. She was one of the Christian girls, the last name Christian. She was going across that walkway, and she stumbled. And a police officer grabbed her by her arms and shoulders, and they were dragging her across that graveled breezeway. When she got inside, I know she must have been hurt, her knees were scraped and everything. And they got inside, all these cells up here, you know. They shoved her into those iron bars.
Wow.
Her head bled profusely. And we're standing here, prisoners, who can't do anything about it. They had, I promise you, 8, 9, 10, 12 people in a jail cell that's built for 4 folk.
Wow.
To add to our discomfort, the jail bunk beds that was made of metal had these germ-infested mattress pads on them. To add to our discomfort, they took the pads off the bunk beds.
Wow.
The toilet had, nasty, germy. And right above the toilet was a water fountain, like hooked onto the toilet. This is the toilet, and the top of the toilet, the back of it where the water flows, here's the water fountain right here. And if you drink water, that's where you drank from.
Wow.
They turned off the heat. We had been soaking wet. I'll never forget a little plaid wool skirt I had on and a little sweater. And we were cold. Some people were getting sick. They wouldn't let anybody have medications or anything of the kind. The food, if you ever saw it, you would never gain weight. I promise you. I promise you. For dinner, they gave us black-eyed peas with raw onions on top, cornbread that could serve as a lethal weapon,
Oh my goodness.
and a piece of fatback
Wow.
in the greens.
Wow.
1 or 2 days, we even had sliced tomatoes. We were moving up. We were in society then.
Oh boy.
Okay, and like breakfast, they served hard, cold grits with grease poured on the top.
Oh,
Not butter,
wow.
grease. And a piece of fatback that was hard and cold. Then again, a biscuit that you couldn't eat.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. And this was, and they come to the cell and shove the food under the cell.
Wow.
But much of our sacrifice, and I may use the word sacrifice because it was a sacrifice, much of the sacrifice has gone unnoticed because we did not tell them the truth. And you talk to them now, I wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have shoved me into no cell. Yes, they would have, because that was the age we lived in. And now you don't have to put up with it, but that was a time when you really did. And I'm not asking for any gratuities.
Yeah.
Anybody follow your knees and say, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. But you do need to know that a price has been paid for where you are. A price that you didn't pay, a price that you couldn't pay. I'm beginning to sound preacherish now.
No, but this is your message to them. So it is okay. So finally,
And
your last
self-respect
word
is going
there.
to be the main thing. Respect yourselves. You can't expect other people to respect you if you don't have any self-respect.
Okay.
sounding preacherish, I had no idea.
That's all right.